Hello and welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The Awakening Together Sanctuary is an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert, the President Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, integral scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen.
Wee doggy.
I know it. We know and love it. Thanks for playing along. How are you tonight, Jacquelyn?
I'm great. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing pretty good. I enjoy starting the year again and looking at the course again with, fresh eyes, and seems like, it's another blue book that gets rewritten every year for me.
Yeah.
As they say, someone rewrote the blue book if you're in Alcoholics Anonymous or in anonymous programs. So say the blue book. So I enjoy starting all over again. So how's 2023 turning out for you 2 weeks into it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, what's not to love, right?
What's not to love?
Yeah. I was amazed when I looked at our reading tonight and saw that it covered both this morning's homily and what you were just teaching. So
I was, I was looking at it. I was reviewing it because I did it on Wednesday. I was reviewing the lesson to come. It was like, oh, and then to review the Luke. It was like we should just like say one thing and just put it on whatever the theme is. It starts out in the morning and then just like put it on loop. It's like she said at the very beginning. She goes, I don't have anything new to talk about. That's all. What it's always been. The truth isn't different today.
yes, the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth.
What do you want? What do you want to talk about today? It's all gonna, it's all gonna be perfect. It's all gonna be perfect. But Shauna's gonna tell us who reads and what chapter we're on. I think.
You know what? I'm thrilled. I'm to hear the Sat song coming up here a little bit later that Shauna is leading. I thought, well, she's not going to be here. How in the world are we going to know who's going to read?
I know. And then she popped on. I should sing Tara more often.
Hi, Shauna.
Hello. So Glen reads, and we're on chapter 21 of Luke.
All right.
Thank you, Shauna.
Which in the regular NTI is page 173.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And it's page 48 in the keys.
Okay. So let's put this together. Holy Spirit's interpretation of the New Testament, Luke chapter 21. And so I tell you, true reward comes only from full surrender to God. There is no other way. Partial surrender is to let go of control, and to keep control is to keep the truth firmly hidden from your sight. For the truth is not for truth is not control. For the truth is not control. The truth is complete and perfect love of freedom. It is time that we talk about fear, for I have said that fear can keep you from me. This is true, and it could never be true. It could never be true that anything could keep you from me, because we're always one. That's what must be true, or we would not exist. But it is also true that fear can keep you from me, in that fear can keep the peace and knowledge of what I am from your awareness, and this is to keep the truth of what you are from your awareness too. We have spoken of the mind that must be shared, which you believe you have taken for yourself. This mind you believe you have stolen from God. You must know that that's impossible to steal this mind from God, because this mind is God and God cannot be stolen from itself. So, how is it that you think you've stolen it? The mind that is God is what it is and cannot be changed, but you, as one with this mind, had wished that it could be different. And then within the freedom granted you by being of mind, you began to make your wish fulfilled. There is nothing wrong with this exploration of thought in which you choose to engage, except for the error in which you believe that your thought could not live if it was shared. In this error, you developed your first misperception of yourself. For in this error, you created the belief that you could be separate from God, and then you judged yourself for what you thought you did, and then you found yourself guilty of disrupting the existence of the truth that is God. Disrupting is an appropriate word here, because God, as best as can be described, is sharing the existence of love. By choosing that God be something different, you had to decide that different must be that it could not be shared, and to not be shared must be a disruption, quote unquote, of that which is shared. This seemed to be the creation of a private mind with private thoughts and its own private abilities. But since you saw this as a disruption that destroyed the essence of what God is, you saw this as a sin and judged yourself as guilty, and what could come of such judgment except fear? Now, take a moment to accept all that I'm telling you. Even if you can't understand it yet, I'm telling you this. The Spirit of God is one. Nothing that exists is not within the Spirit of God. You exist, so you must be within the Spirit of God. That which is within the Spirit of God is the Spirit of God. Therefore, you cannot be separate from the Spirit of God. You've believed that you're separate from God, a separate entity with private thoughts that are not shared. And for these thoughts of which you believe you are responsible, you've judged yourself as guilty. And yet, there must be something within you that does not believe these thoughts are private, because you also believe that you will suffer for having these thoughts, which means you know that they're shared. This seeming conflict is the basis of your belief in fear. Let's look at this book slowly once again. For there is an inconsistency here that you must see and recognize if you're to let fear go. The inconsistency is this. You believe, I have made a private mind with private thoughts which are mine alone, which must mean that I am guilty of disruption of the sharing thought that is God. And yet, I believe that this error that I have made is seen, because I know that thought cannot not be shared, and so I expect and fear punishment for all that I believe that I have done. And there, within your own thought and belief, is the insane idea that maintains your fear and yet can never be. For if you were guilty of making a mind that disrupted the flow of the mind of God, that mind would be private and it would not be shared. Therefore, God could not seek to punish you, because he wouldn't be aware. What is the truth of all your thoughts and all your beliefs? The truth is that they are based on a premise of separation, which cannot be true. And since they are based on the premise that cannot be true, your thoughts in themselves cannot be true either, which means there's no guilt and there can be nothing to fear. Why have I chosen now, at this point in the New Testament, to tell you this? Because when you look on this, I want you to realize what it is that Jesus intended his apostles to know. It is your fear that makes the world you fear seem real. When you've seen that the source of all that you believe is thought, a misperception within the thought of the idea of a private mind, you will see that it is nothing. And in that instant, it will be gone. See,
Well done, my friend. Thank you. Yes, scene. Very good.
I know. That's Jesus. That's like Jesus for you. Just get this through your head.
Let me just lay this out here for you.
Lay this out here for you. Pay attention.
All right, let's look at this a little more closely. Let me just say that this opening line refers to, well, verses 1 through 4. And I was just looking that up before we started. In Luke 21, verses 1 through 4, I'm looking at the NIV version of the New Testament. It's called the widow's offering.
Right.
It says, as Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. Truly, I tell you, he said, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on. And I think we've looked at this before in this program, this same parable, maybe anyway, from different different sections of the Bible. But I was surprised to learn that was about surrender. The first time I realized that was about surrender, was surprising to me. When Jesus talks about her putting in all that she had, she's putting in all her own, she's giving up all her own self-will. That's what the reference is to. So she's all in, as they say in the popular card game, right? She's all in. She is fully surrendered. And so that's why NTI comes right out of the box here with true reward only comes from full surrender to God. Partial surrender is impossible. There's no such thing as partial surrender, because that's not surrendered at all. And while the thinking mind will tell you that if you can only gain control of this situation, if you can only figure out all the variables and pick the best one, you'll be happy. That's what the thinking mind will tell you. That's not true. That's impossible. Happiness comes from full surrender, from the opposite of what the thinking mind tells you will bring you happiness. Truth is not control. Truth is complete and perfect love of freedom. How about that? I mean, it's freedom. It's freedom for everything to show up exactly as it shows up. Freedom for you to show up as you show up. Freedom for for the weather to be what it is. For the for the birds to fly in the direction they want to fly in. For the fish to swim where they want to swim. It's true and perfect freedom. And that is the flow of the universe, right? So to the extent that I am trying to control that flow, I am out of the flow. I am out of the flow of the universe. I am trying to exercise my own personal will. And, that way lies suffering. The next part, what's being talked about in the Bible, the New Testament, is the end times, right? It's going to be awful. There's going to be war and famine and nation against nation, and it's like, oh,
within your generation. It says within your generation, before you die.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because it's Holy Spirit here says, why am I talking to you about this? And I'm not finding that right this minute where it says that. Why am I talking to you about fear?
It's the very end. Very end.
The very end of the chapter?
Yeah. Why have I chosen now at this point the United to tell you about this? Is the second to the last chapter paragraph.
Well, I'll be Oh yeah, it says that right there. Well, I've chosen now at this point in the New Testament to tell you this. I want you to realize what it is that Jesus intended his apostles to know. It's your fear that makes the world you fear seem real. So, and again, he starts with, I've told you that fear can keep you from me. Now, that's impossible because you and I are one. There's only one thing going on here. We're all one. So you can't really be from me, but you can be kept from me in your own awareness, right? You can believe that you're separate, and that's the problem, and that's the cause of all the fear, is this very premise that we could be separate. Let's see. I love this line. When you were reading this really jumped out at me, and it's not something that I had underlined before. It said, God cannot be stolen from itself. And I just love that. And that reminded me of those, Muji's the one that comes to mind. I think Sana played a video for us not long ago where Muji was talking about this person who had all these riches but thought they were a pauper, thought they had none. And that's the same thing. You can't be stolen from yourself, right? You can't steal God from God's self. There's only one thing going on here. You can never be separate from God. And of course, this is what you were talking about, Glenn, and I'm sure you'll tell us about it some more, but about, you can't break God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Only the truth is true. You can't change what is true. So we get the summary of the tiny man idea from Romans chapter 2. Yeah, right. Is where we first heard this. Well, actually, no, it's not, because Luke comes before Romans, doesn't it? It's where I first heard it. But this story is told again in Romans chapter 2 about the tiny man idea. What's the tiny man idea? The wish or the belief that things could be different, right? That things could be different than they are. And it's nice in here because, again, remember, love is perfect freedom. The truth is complete and perfect love of freedom. So it's clear in here that, hey, it's okay. You want to play around, see what things would be like if it was different? No problem, right? There's no problem with this. The problem came when you believed that what you were experiencing, what you were thinking, what was going on couldn't be shared, right? That's the essence of separation. That's the foundation of all the misperceptions that come after. It says, in this error, you created the belief that you could be separate from God, and then you judged yourself guilty of disrupting the existence of God. And I was talking when we started about how fun it was that what was going on here in this chapter seemed to emphasize or reiterate what Cyndi said this morning in a homily. It seemed to reiterate what you were just teaching, and it reiterated what I wrote with Inner Wisdom today. It's really funny. I mean, I had not read this, by the way, before this was written. And I just said, what would you share with me today? And Inner Wisdom said, you are love. Share this to remember it. You can't share love while judging. You can't share love while wanting now to be different. What is here now that I can love? Let this question be your reminder. You are everything, and everything is love. But and again, I mean, I'm just always really tickled when there's like a joke that everybody's in on. Right? Yeah.
Last week I taught there was the Secret Miracle Workers Network. So it's like you're plugged in. It's like everybody's like a secret agent to somebody else, and if somebody isn't participating in the script because they're in secret agent mode, like they're helping you. They don't know they're helping you. You don't know you're helping your secret.
I love that.
Yeah. It's a miracle network. You're part of a miracle network of this.
Yeah. So God is this extension of love. It's sharing the existence of love. That's what God is. And that's why it's so cool, because when you're like, when you're operating from position of separation. You feel that contraction, and you get down into your own little world. But when you're operating from the right mind, you feel expansive. You want to share. It's a totally different feeling from the contraction that you feel when you think you're in this on your own. You got to get yours before your brother gets theirs. All of those separate, wrong-minded thoughts lead to this contraction. And sharing God, sharing the existence of love, leads us to that expansive feeling, that expansive place. Again, disrupting is an appropriate word here because God is best as it can be described is sharing the existence of love. So because it's sharing, because it's expansion, that's what isness is. That's what being is. So we want it to be different. So what's different? Oh, we're going to be all these discrete little separate little minds. That is what would be different. Mm-hmm. This seemed to be the creation of a private mind with private thoughts and its own private abilities. I want to reread this that is italicized here. It says, now take a moment to accept all that I am telling you, even if you cannot understand it as yet. I am telling you this: the Spirit of God is one. Nothing exists that is not within the Spirit of God. There's only one thing going on here. Simply said, you exist, right? So there's only one thing going on. And guess what? You exist. I mean, here you are. You exist. And so you must be within the Spirit of God. You must be within the only thing that's going on here, right? That which is within the Spirit of God is the Spirit of God. Therefore, you cannot be separate from the Spirit of God. It's impossible. It's all Plato. Yeah. So nonetheless, you believe that you're separate from God. You believe that you're a separate little entity. You have your own private little separate thoughts, that these thoughts are not shared, that the thoughts I have in here have no effect on you. Let me just, I'll be over here. You have your own thoughts over there, right? We're all separate. That's what we believe. And yet, you've judged yourself as guilty for this whole thing. It says, there must be something within you that does not believe these thoughts are private, because you also believe you'll suffer for having these thoughts, which means they're shared. And this ridiculous, insane thought, it says here, insane thought is the basis of all fear. And again, what does fear do? Fear keeps you from the knowledge of yourself. And then it goes through this paradox again. The paradox is very simple. You think that everything was cool until you made a private mind, right? And you split yourself off from God. And so these private thoughts that you're having are sins and all of that. But here's the problem. If you'd really had thoughts that couldn't be shared, God would not know that happened. How could you get in trouble? You wouldn't get in trouble, right? So, but you're like, oh shit, I'm going to be found out. How are you going to be found out if private thoughts can't be shared? So within that, it proves that it's that the very thought that there are private thoughts is impossible. There's no such thing as private thoughts, as the Course in Miracles told us. There within your own thought and belief is the insane idea that maintains your fear and yet can never be. For if you were guilty of making a mind that disrupted the flow of the mind of God, if you were guilty of making a mind, that mind would be private and it would not be shared. Therefore, God could not seek to punish you because he would not be aware. So what is the truth of all your thoughts and all your beliefs? The truth is they're based on this fundamental principle of separation. And we know that. We think I'm over here, you're over there. I'll get mine before you get yours. And every conflict that we have with somebody is based on this fundamental idea that it's me against you. At the very least, it's me compared to you, right? You're going to come out up here or down here. And that's only possible if separation were real. So what is the truth of all your thoughts and all your beliefs? The truth is they're based on a premise of separation, which cannot be true. And since the premise can't be true, your thoughts, they're not true. They're not true either. Again, so why are we being told this? Because Holy Spirit wants us to know it's our fear that makes the world we fear seem real. So if we get, there's only one thing going on here. You know, I talk about all the time about a benevolent universe. Mm-hmm. Well, of course it's benevolent. There's only one thing going on here. What am I going to do? Am I going to hurt myself? No, I can't actually hurt myself. You can't actually break God. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you have seen the source of all that you believe is a misperception, you're done. You go, you laugh all the way home. Remember the tiny mad idea, the idea at which we forgot to laugh? Yeah, that's it. That's the idea, that there could be opposing forces, that there could be conflict in any form. That is bullshit. That is a belief that could never, ever, ever be true. And why? Because there's only one thing going on here. That's it. And it's love. It's love. And if you want to experience that for yourself, try it. Try it on your neighbor. Try it right now. I mean, again, what Holy Spirit told me is, what is here now that I can love? Do you know, every time I ask that thought that Alexa has reminded me to do all day long, every time I hear that thought, there's something to love. There's something to love. I love I can't do it now because it's dark, but I love looking outside and seeing my dog outside. I love this new shirt I got. I love everything. What is there not to love? And that's the thought of oneness. That's the thought of expansion and extension, as opposed to having my own little private world over here. You stay away. Yeah. Anyway, all right. That's all I got. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. You're wanting it to. You just is this like. My critique of the world is that it should be different in the way that it should. It's just it's like, what kind of, I mean, realistically, what kind of credentials do I bring to this table? What kind of world building credentials do I bring to this critique of the way God said, the way the world is, the physics, or the way everything is actually set up and moved? What kind of world building experience am I bringing to this? I'm not, so it's, I get to participate, or it runs over me, because if I try, I'm not. God's doing the creation, this oneness, wholeness. The love is here. My resistance to it is where all the suffering and the grit and the disappointment that Glen isn't getting fulfilled in this. The world just isn't serving its purpose. Because I'm not on this like bliss track all the time. The world's just falling down in its, purpose of, providing, like I was saying in the other program, it says, are you the main character? Sometimes I fall into being the main, being the main character. It's all about me. That's, why she starts with true reward comes from your surrender to God. And it's no accident that he uses a widow and money to make this point. Somebody who doesn't have a man, or the society that is going to be taking, she's a widow. She's doing it looks like she has to do it all herself. She's abandoned, widow. You're not married. Your kids are away. You live. I mean, that's the stereotype. And what does she do? She gives the means of her survival to the reality. She gives her means, because that's what happens when we give ourselves to the world, we're taken care of. When we participate, like I was saying, in this reality, I'm participating in this flow of fertility and exchange, and the widow is demonstrating that. I came this little bit, and I give what I can, and I get what I need, and I believe in this process, this living community God oneness thing, that I can give up everything because it's all coming right back, right? I'm taken care of. I can give away and give away and give away because I'm in the cycle of this creation in reality. I don't have to worry about, and I say all the time, it goes, because we're trying to build this place in Vermont, and it takes a few shiny coins for a few things, like getting water and electricity on the land. It was like, but for somehow, when the bills or the things happen, we have enough. When it all happens, we have enough to move forward. I trust in this process. I don't, I can get myself, and when I catch myself worrying or needing it to be, I want to feel more secure about my money prospects of being able to get projects done on my timeline, so participating in this process and watching it unfold is much more than trying to wrestle it to the ground and make sure that it all happens in a certain way. So part I liked in this, there can be no, the true reward comes from full surrender to God. There can be no other way. To keep control is to keep faith in truth firmly hidden from your sight, or the truth is not to control. The truth is complete and perfect love of freedom. Perfect love of freedom. Do I want freedom? Because it looks like it looks like it's very often I want control. I don't really want freedom. I want control, and I call that freedom. So, and watch is like trying to control others. So for my freedom, that dynamic is what I work with a lot. So 5 through 38, she goes on quite the destruction through the destruction of the temple in the end times. It's about the destroying of Jerusalem. It's kind of like what I was talking about in like you're in the Garden of Eden. Stop leaving the Garden of Eden. Everything's perfectly right here. The love of God doesn't get any more or any less. You can't step away from God. You can only step away from your perception or your experience. You choose that. So the world of fear is collapsing. I said before, I had about a year or 2 years ago, I really came to the conclusion that I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid of the world anymore. I wasn't afraid of getting hurt by others or just my own history. And that profoundly changed how I walk down the sidewalk and such. And this not being afraid, this freedom that has been given me to express and to share, what I realize now is it's because I want that for others. I only have it in the degree in which I really do practice it with others. Am I giving freedom? Do I express is there freedom in my presence? Is there freedom in my radiance? Do I really practicing this idea of choosing freedom for myself and not stepping and trying to control others? Fear keeps you from me, in that fear can keep the peace and knowledge of what I am from your awareness. So I want to tune in to my awareness. What is true? And that's what she gives the part in italics. The Spirit of God is one. You know, she ends up, you can't be separate from God. You know, I was thinking in the lesson, it's like you can't escape yourself. You can't get away from God. You can't move out of reality. You can pretend and tell stories, or you know, or create the drama and the look away of it all, but you don't ever really leave the bassinet. You know, you can cry and make all kinds of things, but you know, you never really, it doesn't happen. That could be comforting, right? It could be like, oh, I'm not only working against my own will, but this work against my own will is hurting me, is causing the suffering of not this holding back, this restriction of sharing my radiance with my sharing and participating in what is true. Oh, the Spirit of God is one. Am I teaching it? Am I living that? Or do I gatekeep it and all of that? That's what she did. You exist. You know? So does everybody. The oneness exists. Not just my oneness. You know? Again, making it about me again. You know, it's like, how do I really participate? How do I participate? I think she's really asking us to take an action step here. And it's like, act like it. Catch yourself in this restriction and control and the limit, and the way we do it we do it ourselves, and the way we impose it on other people as well. Limit others. But she calls that putting in prison in another place. But the dilemma is that the thought we judge ourselves about, that no one knows about us, so I feel bad. We know on some level that we do share our thoughts in our mind. We do, and we can see that in the reality of the world that we actually have built, the ideas of Western civilization, or beauty, or fads, or fashions, or things. Collective thought changes behavior. Popular music and politics, and you can see movements of thoughts and ideas expressing because more people are participating in them. And it's no different than how we can use this innate ability of ours to affect negatively and positively our experience of the world as a collective being, by taking responsibility for the ways in which we think and act and participate in the attention we have of our own minds. Are you paying attention? Am I even paying attention to the casual ways in which I berate myself or talk myself or others or the world down? Am I aware of this? Because we're spirit. Am I participating in creation? Am I here? Am I listening? Do I really trust what's happening here? Do I have my coins? You know, have I put my coins in it? Have I invested all I have in participating in this flow of this radiance? I think it's a really beautiful project to be conscious of as an individual, and to say, oh, I can do this, and I can be present, and I want to. This love must get out, right? Why is there existence? Because God's wanted to be known or expanded, or however we even conceptually think about consciousness or awareness, you know, because it doesn't have to be. I just really, really love that. What a gift all this is, and I can participate in it as well. So, you know, I'll leave here. When we have seen the source of all that you believe is thought, a misperception within the thought of the idea of a private mind, you'll see that it is nothing. And in that instant, it'll be gone. So I think it's really good news that we don't have private thoughts. I haven't always thought that way, but I'm really glad we don't have private thoughts, because all of your good works and your good thoughts benefit me, and I'm going to take your beneficence and, you know, all the wonderful things that you do for yourself and claim them as my own, because I want to wake up too. You know, I want to experience what is real. So I'm going to do I'm going to take responsibility for my thoughts and my attention. You know what they say, clean up. You know you have to. I'm interested in doing what is mine to do, and not restricting, and seeing how deep does this thing go, right? How deep does this thing go? I'm interested. I'm committed. But I'd like to hear how others reacted to this as well.
Yeah, can I say one more thing before we
Absolutely.
go to comment? I just want to be clear about what I mean when I say there's only one thing going on here. Maybe y'all already know, maybe this is redundant, but let me say it again in a different way. Basically, it's the fact that we are all like radios. Yeah. We all are all broadcasting and all receiving at the same time, all of the time. There's only one mind. Any thoughts that occur in that one mind are heard by the entire mind. So another metaphor could be like electricity. You know, there's only one electricity, right? And it seems like there's a light bulb there and a lamp over there and a radio over there. And, you know, it seems like those are running on separate things, but they're only running on one thing, because there's an inseparable beingness, and the belief that anything could be separated out of that or apart from that, or that, you know, that there's two things and then you put them together and they're one, that all of that is a misperception. All of that is an illusion, because there's one continuous thing. I mean, words don't do it, right? Thing, body, mind. There's only one thing. And it just appears that there's 8 billion things. Well, 8 billion different people, and then with the millions and millions and millions of things other than that. And that is not that. That's just the way it shows up. That's not the reality.
It couldn't be true.
I just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Oh no, yeah, it couldn't be true. It doesn't work if everything is separate. It doesn't work. It doesn't coordinate. It doesn't actually perform as reality. There's all these private thoughts and things like that. It actually doesn't. We don't even have reality if it's any other way than the way it is.
Yeah, and so that's why when Regina teaches the code, you know, we talk about what we're putting back out there into, and you can call it collective consciousness or the universe or whatever it is. You know, what type of thoughts do you want to contribute to this one thing that's going on here? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it's
all right,
a
thanks.
Responsibility, I think.
Yeah.
It's quite a task, but this land for anybody.
I see Cyndi has her hand up.
Oh, what really? Oh, let's find Cyndi.
There she is. Hi, Cyndi. Loved your homily. Thank you so much. It's beautiful homily this morning.
Oh, there she is. Here, come on down, Cyndi.
Am I down? I'm on gallery view, so I'm looking at everybody. There are two things that came up for me. But it was when you started talking about the radio receiver that, you know, I already had it on my notes when I was listening. But, you know, I've been very open and vulnerable and pretty raw for a little bit. I asked for it. It's all good. And I mentioned this morning that I live in Buffalo, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in Buffalo. Currently, it's football. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a 24-year-old or 22-year-old that almost died, and there's a lot of energy. Yeah. And I don't watch football. The thing is, though, this afternoon, I felt it. I could hear my neighbor, so I had a feeling what was going on. but there was and they were losing for a while in a game that they technically wouldn't have played had they had it. What doesn't matter. I could feel the pain. There was a lot of waves going up and down. There was an entire community very, very, very energized. Probably millions and millions of people in this community watching and caring. And I ended up in my back room on my knees for I don't know what period of time, just in this space of releasing the me and the them, the me and the them, and working very hard to get underneath the winners and the losers and the ups. It was insane. And yet I knew, this whole idea of receivers and incoming and outgoing, and the energy was so charged. And literally I was on my knees in prayer position on a couch in the back room, just watching my reception and doing the work to say, oh, look there's another energetic. I'm a Buffalonian. They're Miamians. Me and them. Truth will correct all. Literally, that was my mantra for I don't know how long. Truth will correct all errors. Now, I could feel the energy of that. It was insane.
Yeah.
And then the game was over. The other thing that was coming up here, and again, it's probably because I'm so raw and watching and committed, is, and I'll have to go back and listen to it, is Regina's homily from last January of 2022, on faith and trust and belief. It just reminds us that we consciously do all the things you guys were talking about today. And between Regina's homily and the keys to the kingdom, there is a program running in this body-mind personality that believes it's separate and believes that fear has a purpose, and it's running, right? So just because I am conscious and I know the truth consciously, this body is responding like, no, 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 and so it's important for me to keep teaching myself that, to keep reminding myself that we're not talking about how this body, mind, personality is reacting. We're literally talking about not believing the body, mind's reaction and choosing truth instead. So thank you for letting me say that aloud again. I'll probably say it out loud, I don't know, 10,000 more times before it's all over. But man, I love us. Thank you.
It's beautiful.
I was just thank you, Cyndi, for sharing. When you said that, it reminded me of what Inner Wisdom told me a couple of weeks ago. It said, and I read it when I did my homily last week. Imagine that you trust your brothers and that they likewise trust you. What might your interactions look like if this were true? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about operating from that premise, right? Of course, we trust each other. We are each other. You literally are your brother. So, what would your experience look like if that's the type of interaction that you had with those around you, rather than, excuse me, you're stepping on my toes, right? So it's a very practical teaching. It sounds kind of like, Eric, what do you mean? You can hear other people's thoughts. I mean, it sounds a little out there, but if you apply it, it's amazing. It's just an amazing difference. And it shows up as trust, this knowledge that we're all one. That is how it shows up.
The participation, I begin to call it togetherness. We are together in this. We're ultimately together. There's no pulling me up. There's no pulling us apart. There's no pulling God apart into different areas, or it's not possible. This togetherness is more than glue. It's access to everything. It's like, oh, that Glen is just a temporary perspective. You know, which like just like wild.
Lovely.
You know,
That's a lovely way to put that. Yeah.
that I don't have to worry about it, and I don't have I don't have to fix Glen, and I don't have to fix the world, and I don't have to fix you. I do have to fix Yolanda, but but that's another thing. That's my project. Yolanda's my project. But what? Who else? Who else? As I joke, I kid. Everybody knows Yolanda's perfect. Says no.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
She puts up with you, Glenn, but yes, we do.
See? The proof is right before us, and we do not have eyes to see it. Who else? We got a couple minutes. We got several minutes here.
George.
Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Come down.
I'm glad that you quoted from the Bible, Jacquelyn, about the widow, because, as we read NTI, I don't really have the habit of going back to the Bible and looking, and yet that really adds another dimension to understanding the NTI. So thank you for doing that. So, and that's all I've got to say.
Oh, thank you, George. Yeah, it's fun when you go look. It's like, oh, that's that's why they're saying this here. And so it seems totally out of context. Yeah, it's helpful. Thank you. And Shauna.
Come on down.
Come on down. Thank you all for this wonderful teaching. In the very beginning, I just love how it explains control and freedom. Control keeps truth firmly hidden from your sight. Truth or freedom. The truth is complete and perfect love. Gee, which am I going to choose? It's so clear the way NTI points that out. Yeah. And then when it talks about fear, and you talked about this already, Jacquelyn, but the purpose of fear is to keep the peace and knowledge of what I am from my awareness. That's the purpose of fear. Wow. Keep the truth of what you already are from your awareness. So that's just like a stopper for me. Wow. And then looking at fear is so interesting. And the movie Revolver comes back again too. Evie tells Jake, it's hiding behind your pain, Jake. It's in the most obvious place that one would never look. Pain. Look for the pain. That will point right to what fear I'm believing in this moment. Mm-hmm. Can I be more sensitive to that pain that is the fear? And then I love the definition of God is sharing the existence of love. I just love that. God, as best as it can be described, God, is sharing the existence of love. And then at the bottom of page 174, now take a moment to accept all that I'm telling you, even if you can't understand it yet. For me, that's like, get beyond this brain. This mind will never understand what I'm telling you. Go to the heart, listen for guidance, be open, be empty for the guidance, and then revelation happens. And then interesting about the basis of all separation is that thoughts can't be shared. Yet when I look back, I remember thinking, oh, thank God no one knows what I'm thinking. Before I could realize that it was energy that we share. Go ahead, Jacquelyn.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, and that's what I had written in the margin, because the way it shows up is, what if I'm found out? Oh my God, what if they find out how bad I am? What if they find out, what these awful things that I think? Mm-hmm. I say one thing, but I'm thinking awful thing. It's that whole, I'm going to be found out. Mm-hmm. Seems to be the same thing as, you're going to be found out that you were bad and created a private mind, which is impossible, of course. But.
Yes. Thank you. Excellent. Yes. And then the last sentence, which Reverend Glen talked about also, is, and in that instant it will be gone. That's, for me, that's why this seeing, this looking, this inquiry is so important. As soon as it's seen in this moment now, it'll be gone. It'll be replaced with truth. And just keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. And that's some of the points that I had that
It's
jumped out to me.
It's that flimsy, isn't it, Shauna? It's that you can see it. It's that thin and that flimsy. It's not as scary. It's not built up. It's not this immovable force. It's not something we can't see through or see past or anything like that. We're making it so thick and hard and difficult and opaque, not the truth of what it is. The truth is, that I forgot to laugh, or I'm wrong. I think this is, I'm identifying as something other than the truth, so, right?
Yeah. And then that final line, in italics, it is your fear that makes the world you fear seem real. That's what holds it in place. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay. I think we're out of time, dear. You want to play our outro?
I do.
Thank you all for being here.
You've been listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.
Instead of pain. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Looking forward to this satsang.
Oh, me too. Thanks, everybody. Love you.